until it conquered the entire world, okay? So how did it do so? All right, so let's go over America. Well, first of all, America is not a small island. It is a continental fortress. And in fact, it controls the entire Western Hemisphere. And we know that the Western Hemisphere is very, very wealthy, okay? So America is not just the country of America, it's really the Western Hemisphere. And as such, it has unlimited population, it has unlimited resources, it has unlimited land, okay? So this resolves the issue of resources, okay? Second problem, the currency. Well, what America would do that would revolutionize the world is make the US dollar the standard of wealth in the world. And because the US dollar is just a concept, it's just an idea, everyone can now play this game, and wealth can now be infinite, okay? Right, that makes sense, right? Before, gold was what everyone was playing for, but there's a limit to gold. But with US dollars, anyone and everyone in the world can now play, okay? So I'll talk about how the US dollar became the center of wealth in the world. Now, the ethnicity is another problem, okay? And so what America did that was very clever is tell the world we are not an ethnicity, okay? We're not a land. What we really are is a game, all right? So the idea is that America became a nation game. All right. So, so this is pretty easy to understand, okay? So I'm gonna explain this first, and then I'm gonna explain how the US dollar came to dominate the world. Okay? All right. All right. So for the longest time, we had problems deciding what a game or a nation ought to be. Okay? So traditionally, nations have been ruled politically through the monarchy, okay? An oligarchy, a democracy, or a theocracy, okay? So there are others, but these are the four major ones. A monarchy is very simple. A king is in charge. Everyone just obeys the king. Oligarchy is where the nobility are in charge. Another name for oligarchy is the aristocracy, okay? And that's basically Rome. A democracy is where the people make all the decisions. And so what happens is that if a decision is to be made, people get together and they give speeches. Whoever gives the best speech gets the most votes. And then that decision is implemented, okay? And of course, the classic example of democracy is Athens. Okay? And then you have a theocracy, which is to say that the priests are in charge, and the priests represent the will of God. Okay? And of course, theocracy, the classic example is a Catholic Europe. This is medieval Europe when the Catholic Church was in charge. All right? But starting with the Enlightenment, when God was no longer considered that important, philosophers debated amongst themselves what a nation ought to be, what society ought to be, okay? And so let's discuss the major theories of this time period. All right, so the first idea is if God doesn't really matter, okay? If it's up to humans to decide how to structure societies, how can you best do so? And at this time, the most popular idea is social contract theory. Social contract theory. And there are two major theorists. Okay? The first is John Locke, who of course is English. And for him, government, it's very simple. Okay? Human beings have three fundamental rights that God gave us, okay, which are inalienable, which means that no one can take away from us. The first is life. Okay? The second is liberty, the right to say whatever we want, the right to do whatever we want. And the third is the pursuit of property, wealth, okay? So they have private property. In other words, government exists in order to protect the wealth that we generate for our hard work. And if we steal it, that's okay as well, okay? If we kill a lot of people, in India, China, and France to get it, that's okay too, because it happened elsewhere, okay? All right? So, private property. And as you can imagine, if you have wealth, you like the system a lot. And not only that, but you are encouraged, you're incentivized to work really hard. And that's what actually allowed England to overtake the French, the Dutch, and the Spanish, okay? Then you have another theorist named Jean-Jacques Rousseau. And his theory is different, okay? It's also social contract theory, but it's a different idea, which is, okay, we're born in a state of nature. We have complete freedom. We can do whatever we want. So why do we choose to give up this freedom and come into society, okay? The reason why is, when we do so, we create a social contract that creates the general will. Okay? And the general will is a substitute for God. It is the expression of the best of who we are. Okay, do you understand? So by ourselves, we're fine, okay? When we come together, we create a new concept that allows us to be truly and fully human, the general will. So what is the general will? Okay, all right, so think of Immanuel Kant, who was a German philosopher, and he explained that the very basis of humanity, what we should all try to achieve, is something called the categorical imperative. Okay? The categorical imperative is the highest moral law. Right? It's really God's law. And there are three components to the categorical imperative, okay? The first is the idea of universality. Universality just means that, imagine this, whatever you do, everyone else around you will automatically do, okay? So you want to go drink alcohol. Everyone's going to drink alcohol. Do you want to live in a society of alcoholics? Okay? If you cheat on a test, everyone immediately is going to cheat as well. Do you want to live in a society of cheaters? Okay? If you read books, everyone else is going to read books. So imagine that whatever you do will be replicated by everyone else immediately, okay? That's the idea of universality. Second is the idea of free will. Okay? I know that eating ice cream is bad. I know that eating protein, chicken, is good, okay? But I cannot be forced to eat chicken even though it's better for me. I have to choose to eat chicken by myself. If I want to eat ice cream, I can do that, okay? So we cannot coerce people to do what they do not want to do. All right? And number three is human is the end unto itself, okay? And the idea here is that you cannot use humans, a human being, to achieve a higher purpose, because humans are the ultimate purpose. So I can't be like a king and says, you know what, I'm going to start a war to make a lot of money for everyone, and I'll sacrifice 50% of my people, but the other 50% who live will be happy. They'll live in paradise. You can't do that, okay? Because you cannot sacrifice anyone's life in order to achieve a higher end, because the ultimate end is the human life, okay? So that's the idea of the categorical imperative. And this becomes the theoretical basis for the general will, okay? Now in practical terms, how do you implement this in society? Well, the general will gives rise to government. And then the government gives rise to laws, okay? So the legitimacy of the government comes from the consensus of the people, which is the general will. The general will is not democracy, right? The general will is an abstract idea which represents the best of who we can be. All right? So just because everyone's like, okay, we should all vote to kill that person because we don't like him. No, that's not the general will. The general will is everyone is important. Do unto others as you would want others to do unto you. Okay? So you can't kill anyone, okay? And if people vote for this, then the government is illegitimate because it goes against the general will. All right? And this is important for us because this becomes the basis of the French Revolution. in the French Revolution, the entire European continent, okay, including Britain, Prussia, Austria, Russia, everyone got together and attacked France. France was poor. France had no monarchy. But France defeated everyone. Why? Because people were energized to fight for their nation. They believed that I am now part of a greater good. I have equity in this game. Therefore, I will defend this nation with my life. And France, for the longest time, was unbeatable on the battlefield. Okay?